Hi there and welcome to my channel Maths with A. Dioraj. Thank you for joining me. Today's lesson is double digit multiplication. Right, so we are going to be multiplying 2-digit by 2-digit numbers. The first method that I'm going to show you is the breakup or the distributive method. The breakup method is, or distributive method is basically to break up these two big numbers into two smaller numbers. Right, so 35 is actually broken up into 30 plus 5. And we're going to multiply that by 24, but we're going to break 24 up as well into 20 plus 4. All right, notice when we break up the bigger numbers into smaller numbers, yes, we do have more sums because actually we are going to make up 4 sums from these numbers. We are going to make up 4 sums from these numbers, but they are 4 simple sums, and it's easier to calculate simple sums, simple numbers. Okay, so let's start by first taking the number from the first bracket and multiplying it by the first number in the second bracket, and that is 30 times 20. Okay, before I complete my answers, let's complete my 4 sums that I need to make up using these numbers. Right, the second sum, I'm going to take the same 30 and this time I'm going to multiply it with the second number in the second bracket, and that is now 30 times 4. All right, now that is not all. Now we are going to take the 5, which is the second number in the first bracket, and multiply it with the first number in the second bracket. So 5 times 20. Now remember, we can write 5 times 20, or we could swap the numbers around and write it as 20 times 5. We still end up with the same answer. In addition and in multiplication, we can swap the numbers in the sum and still have the same answer. Okay, so 5 times 20 or 20 times 5 is written as sum number 3. And lastly, we take the 5 and this time we're going to multiply it with the second number in the second bracket, which is 5 times 4. And that is written as sum number 4. Okay. Right, now to get started with the answers. 30 times 20. Boys and girls, if you have numbers ending with zeros and you are multiplying numbers ending with zeros, it's quite simple to work with these numbers. Let me show you a trick. All you need to know is 3 times 2. 3 times 2 is 6. If you have a 0 in the sum, and in this case we have 2 zeros in the sum, all we do is add the 2 zeros in the answer. Okay, so let's do the second sum, 30 times 4. 3 times 4 is 12. So if we know that 3 times 4 is 12, remember, if there's a 0 in the sum, here we have only 1 0 in the sum, so we are only going to add 1 0 to the answer. Right? It's not just basically adding a 0, it's actually 0 times 4 is 0. Okay, so we just like to work with zeros by just adding the 0 to the answer. In the third sum, we have 20 times 5. Do you know what is 2 times 5? You should know that 2 times 5 is 10. Are we forgetting something? Yes, there's a 0 in the sum, so that means we have to add a 0 to the answer. 0 times 5 is 0. Lastly, number 4, 5 times 4 is 20. 5 times 4 is 20. Now all we need to do is combine our 4 simple sum answers to one main big answer. Notice you always start with your adding your units column first, right? So your units have all zeros. That means your answer will be a 0 as well. In your tens column, you have 2 and 2, that makes 4. And in your hundreds column, you have 6 plus 1 is 7 plus another 1 is 8. And your answer is 840. Okay, now boys and girls, there's many ways of writing a sum like this and breaking it up into smaller sums. This is just one of the ways to do it. I can even, let me just show you another way that you could break up the same sum but write it in a different way. So we're going to take 35 and break it up into 30 plus 5. But instead of writing 20 plus 4 next to it, I'm just going to quickly draw a table with 2 rows and 2 columns. And I am going to write 24 as 20 plus 4 in the side on the vertical end of the table. All right. And now let's look at how easy this becomes. It's actually less complicated because all we need to do now is work with rows and columns. So if we take the first number in the first row and multiply it by the first number in the first column, that is 20 times 30. Remember, 2 times 3 is 6, and add 2 zeros because of the 2 zeros in the sum. That's 600. And then if we take the 5 times the 20, and that is going to become 100. All right, now we are going to work with the 4. Right, 4 times 30 is 120. And here we are going to say 5 times 4, which is 20. Right, you can add 600 plus 120 and write the answer here. 100 plus 120 and write the answer here. Or you could work across. Right, I like to work across. 600 plus 100 is equal to 700. 120 plus 20 is equal to 140. And then we're going to quickly add these numbers up, and that's going to give me 840. Now, can you see we are adding or breaking up the sum into smaller numbers, and although we are getting the same answers, we are just writing it in different ways. Now, there's no harm in breaking up the sum and writing it in whichever way it's easier for you to understand, something that's less confusing. So you can replay this video and watch the 2 ways of breaking up a sum and writing it into these 2 ways, and you can choose and decide which one is easier for you to do. And I'm sure your teacher won't mind if you break up the sum in different ways. All right, now the third way that I'm going to actually show you is the age-old vertical sum. All right, so let's go back to the sum, which was 35 times 24. Okay, and I'm going to write it now using the vertical method. 35 times 24. We say vertical because we are now writing our answers going down instead of across. Right, so 35 times 24. However, even though you might think that this is one sum, we still need to break it up. To simplify the sum, we need to break it up and do it part by part. So I am going to write this sum into 2 different parts. The first part is going to be 35 times 4. All right, so let's start and write the first part as 35 times 4. Now, the answer to the first part should be written in the space here, in the first spacing that's provided here underneath the line. Okay, the second part now will be 35 times 20. Okay, and let's just quickly write that down as part number 2. 35 times 20. Now look, we have broken up the sum into 2 different parts. Okay, what we can do is work on the sum and just say 35 times 4, or let's write it here on the side, 35 times 4. Remember, we still need to further break it down and do it part by part. So what are we doing first? We're multiplying 4 times 5 or 5 times 4. 4 times 5 is 20. If I'm going to add the 0, I'm going to have to carry the 2 to the tens column and write it on top of the tens column. Right. Remember to multiply the numbers first before adding the number that you carry. So 3 times 4 is 12 plus the 2 is 14. The first part of the sum is completed and 35 times 4 is 140. So we're going to be writing this answer in the first step, okay, or the first part. Going on to the second part, remember when we're multiplying by 10, 20, 30 or any number that ends with a 0, we have to add or fill in a 0 in the answer as well. Basically because 35 times 0 is 0. Right, now that we finished multiplying with a 0, we are going to go on to multiplying with a 2. Right, 2 times 5. Why 2 times 5 instead of 2 times 3? Remember the rule, units first. So 2 times 5 is 10. We only need to fill in the 0 of the 10 and carry the 1 to the column that we're going to be multiplying next, which is the tens column. All right, so 2 times 5 is 10. Fill in your 0, carry the 1. 2 times 3 is 6. Multiply first. 2 times 3 is 6. Then add the number that you carry. 6 plus 1 is 7. So the second part of the sum is 35 times 20 and your answer is 700. There you go. But now we have two answers. We need to combine. Combine means to add the two answers to get one big number, one big answer. And 7 plus 1 is 8. My main answer is 840. Now, 35 times 24 is 840, done in the vertical way. And if we look at the different breakup methods that I have shown you earlier, 840 is our answer in all the methods that I have shown you today. Please don't forget to like this video, subscribe to this video, and press on the bell notification for notifications of any further videos that I posted. I hope you enjoyed this video. See you soon. Thank you.